Hey, welcome, Business 101, and this is an introduction for module number 9, which we have released to you. And module number 9 continues our discussion that we started in the previous module on leadership. And so I do hope that you got some useful things out of the previous module, especially when we talk about motivating employees and how leaders best motivate the people that they need to follow them and to compel them, to motivate them, to unite them, to get them to move towards accomplishing organizational goals, right? This is really the definition of leadership. And so I hope that you got some content, some things to think about and consider in module number 8. Now in module number 9, we continued this discussion. So what will you sort of see here in this module that's entitled Leadership and Decision Making? Well, when we continue our discussion on leadership, we will make the distinction in module 9. What is the difference between leadership and management? And I got to tell you, I do think that there is a significant difference between the two, even though I can understand how many times folks who aren't involved in leadership or management may sort of use those two terms interchangeably as synonyms, but they're really not. We'll talk about that in more detail in the module. I can tell you right now, essentially, management, especially from a business perspective, management is all about making sure that the organization delivers consistency and reliability to the consumer. Think about this for a moment, right? McDonald's restaurant, for instance, has locations all around the world, right? And you may know that if you go to a McDonald's in different parts of the world, sometimes they have different cuisine available, right? If you go to a McDonald's in Japan, for instance, it's not uncommon for a McDonald's in Japan to offer sushi on the menu, right alongside a McDonald's hamburger and fries. Did you know that? Yeah. If you travel, for instance, to the McDonald's in Hawaii, McDonald's in Hawaii many times will offer Hawaiian Kona coffee there rather than some of the types of coffee that were offered here on the mainland, right? So, you know, you can see that many times McDonald's in different parts of the world will offer a little bit of local cuisine, but there's one thing you can always count on at a McDonald's, right? And that is no matter where you are in the world, whether you're in Paris or Bangkok or Singapore or Tokyo or Milpitas or Novato, a McDonald's is always going to offer you what? Those golden fries, right? Them golden, delicious fries, right? Warm, hot, salty, delicious, just the perfect crispy. You can drop it under the car seat and 2 weeks later it's still popping in the microwave. It's still good, right? So, but this is the goal of management so that you can trust the brand. Wherever you are in the world, you know you're going to get the same French fry. That is an amazing triumph of management. And that's different than leadership. Leadership is not necessarily about delivering a consistent, reliable experience. It's about getting people united and motivated and mobilized towards a vision for change. And if you think about the great examples of leadership that we're going to give you in this module, or perhaps what immediately comes to your mind when I say great leaders in history, right? You know what I'm talking about, getting a whole population of people, a whole group of people to embrace a vision for the future that they, quite frankly, may only dimly see, right? But to move forward and to act and to embrace this vision of the future that the leader is trying to get them to embrace, right? Two very different things. So one of the questions we deal with right up front in the module, how do leaders get their followers to do what they want them to do? How do you influence the behavior of followers? And the realistic answer is leaders use power. And so if you are uncomfortable with that notion, maybe you need to get comfortable with that if you really aspire to lead others. This is really what leaders do. leaders use power on followers. And the question is, well, what kind of power do you use? We'll talk about that in the module. There are 5 primary forms of social power that leaders use to modify and influence the behavior of followers. This doesn't have to be manipulative or nefarious or evil or any of those kinds of things. It's just simply the way that leaders lead large groups of people, right? More on that in the module. So what else will you see in this module? You will see a discussion of, for instance, the concept of substitutes for leadership. And what does that mean? Well, sometimes your followers are so competent, are so experienced, they don't need the same forms of leadership as, for instance, a work group that is very young and inexperienced in the task. So we'll talk about some of those kinds of things. We'll talk about different approaches to leadership that we have talked about over the years, both in organizations and from a point of view of academic study. And then we will also talk about this whole topic of how leaders make decisions. And I have to tell you, one of the key things in the life of a leader is leaders need to confidently make decisions. And also realize no leader is omniscient. No leader knows everything. No leader, for instance, can predict the future. And even in the midst of uncertainty, a leader needs to be able to confidently make decisions. And quite frankly, when things don't go the way you planned, to simply clean up the mess and not blame other people. But we have to be able to make decisions, and great leaders, more often than not, make wise decisions given the circumstances, given the options at hand, etc., right? And so there are at least 3 different videos in this module on the process of leadership's decision-making ability and decision-making behavior, right? One of the key thoughts in this that you'll encounter is, of course, that while we would hope that leaders generally make wise, intelligent, objective, emotionless decisions on behalf of the organization, the truth is leaders are people. And so not all of our decisions are absolutely 100% rational and objective, because we're people. And so we have influences that influence our decision making, which are sometimes emotional, sometimes personal, and we need to be able to recognize that in the midst of our decision making, right? So all of this you will get in module number 9. I hope that you are able, of course, to get an enormous amount out of this module, and like the previous modules, and that this broadens your perspective on what it means to lead, not only in business and in business organizations, but wherever your life and career may take you. I realize that in any college setting, there are many enrolled in this very class who are destined to lead others at some point in your life. And so I hope this provides a foundation for you to continue to build upon as we talk about these things in module number 9. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoy the module.